The premise of the Asia Sustainable Development Project is that we are now pushing at the limits of our global growth model in terms of social indicators, in terms of our planetary limits, and also in terms of the gains that we've had from economic growth thus far. So, and the rise of Asia and the increasing economic importance of Asia actually puts all of this under a double lens in terms of questioning, because it means a rapid expansion in terms of people, in terms of resources, in terms of stresses on our planet. So, when you usually think about, or when you frequently hear about the rise of Asia, the whole context is in constraints. You know, how Asia will be using too much resources and eating too much food and so on. So what we want to do in this project is actually look at it from the other side, to say, actually, Asia's rise and Asia's transition to the next stage of development is actually a big opportunity. Because as Asia transitions, it will be investing in infrastructure, physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, environmental infrastructure. And the thing is, we have the opportunity now to use a lot of the best knowledge, best planning, and best technology that can help us make a breakthrough where we can continue to grow, but sustainably. And in terms of meeting our environmental constraints, as well as getting a lot better social results in terms of income distribution, equality of opportunity, social progress. And the thing is, because Asia is now at the design stage for its next stage of growth, we have an opportunity to really make that happen. Now, good policy is one aspect, and finance is another. The thing I want to stress here is that for Asia's transition, actually business is essential, because business is the sector that is actually going to be implementing a lot of these good designs and good plans and good ideas on the ground. Business is the one who has to actually make sure that industrial activity actually remains within environmental limits. Business is the one that actually has to create the jobs that people want to have. So the thing is, business has to be a key player in the design and planning process to make sure that actually those two are in sync. And so if we do that, and if we get it right in Asia, actually that basically opens up a whole new realm of opportunity for the global transition to sustainable development. We hold no pretensions about coming up with a master plan for Asia's development. The thing is, Asia is too diverse, too heterogeneous, and has countries ranging from the dirt poor to actually some of the most advanced in the world. The second thing is that sustainability as a field is actually in its infancy. We're just at the beginning of learning about how to use new technologies and about what our best practices are from an industry perspective, from a social perspective, all around. So what we need to do is actually provide a framework to allow us to test a lot of these new ideas, new models, new technologies, actually on the ground where we can actually see what are the impacts in the real world. So the structure of this research project is actually to do just that. We have some analytical pillars in terms of our view of sustainability is actually an integrated, holistic one. We think that sustainability actually has to produce economic benefits, social cohesion, and social equity, as well as to be environmentally within the carrying capacity of the planet. So the thing is, with these three, with this analytical framework, we create the grounds for saying, okay, so for each of these three dimensions, you actually have a number of possible experiments or technologies or case studies or models that you actually want to test out. Because before you roll anything out, you actually want to see what the impacts are in practice by business, with civil society, and with environmental limits. So what we're going to be doing on the project is actually doing deep dive experiments and case studies into key new areas of exploration. And the key is to look at where are the leverage points. Because if Asia gets it right in, say, urbanization, infrastructure planning, energy efficiency for cities, mass transport, if Asia gets it right in these big leverage points, actually the impact will be enormous because we're in the planning and design stage. So what we want to do is work collaboratively across networks and across different organizations. We have a few of the clues. We are conveners, but we have a very open and collaborative working methodology that we want to partner to see how can we best use our collective knowledge to actually test out solutions on the ground and then feed back those results into our learning process before we scale it up and before we actually go and design for them on a wide scale. So we take all of these knowledges to explore what is actually the possibility for Asia to pilot a new global pathway towards sustainable development. Okay, so the first benefit of this project is actually a very physical one, in that we, our planet, have very clear physical limits. And unless we come up with a better way for doing things, for running our economies and for running our societies, we're going to be literally sunk. So in the search for new models and new forms of development, actually this project has a very real significance to everybody on the planet, in that we are coming up with some viable ways to do things differently, which will enable us to remain within the planet's limits. The second benefit is that it's no sense coming up with ideas if no one's going to implement them, okay, or if there's no buy-in for them. So our principle is that the ideas and the experiments actually have to be smart, they have to be practical, and they have to have general buy-in and consensus from the people who are going to be implementing them, which is from business. So that's why business is so essential to this project, in that it's business who is actually going to be testing a lot of the, and coming up with a lot of the case studies. So the thing is, we want to actually pilot different ways for doing things starting from the principle that the business sector is at the center, that there's a significant policy element which we're working towards and which we are helping engage in a dialogue with, and that actually our financial resources have to be directed in the right way, inclusively, and on our right priorities. The last thing is that the things that we try in terms of our new model of development have to actually make economic sense. Okay, so we are not anti-growth. We believe that actually economic growth over the past quarter century for Asia has actually delivered a lot of benefits in terms of poverty reduction and so on. The issue is that we're out of balance. Okay, so what we need to do is actually bring up the social component, bring up the environmental component to say, how can we continue to grow and continue to develop and to reap the gains of industrialization, but to have a lot better social outcomes and to be more conscious of our environmental impact. Now, the last point is that this is very significant globally because the West is already developed. All of their infrastructure and investment and basically their carbon pathway is locked in. Okay, and there's a lot of sunk investments and vested interests, which make it basically impossible for them to change significantly. Asia still has a chance. And so the global hope and the global site of opportunity for sustainable development is actually in Asia. So it's Asia's responsibility and also its opportunity to come up with a new global way forward.